when you're starting out as an actor or you're trying to work your way up, the chances are you're more likely to be working with the dialogue that's not as great. And then at the time you least need the help, you're rewarded with the dialogue that makes you look even better. And I kind of think there's something sort of unfair about that in a way. You want that really great dialogue when you're starting, and then you can look like you're doing really well rather than trying to polish something that's not so great.
Filmmaker Magazine presents Back to One with Peter Rinaldi.
Damon Herriman is an actor. He sat down with me in Midtown Manhattan to talk about the work.
I heard you say somewhere that your script pages have absolutely nothing on them. They're the cleanest pages.
That's pretty much correct, yeah.
And I was fascinated by that. I just imagined you like looking at your clean page. I mean, I was a reader for auditions 2 weeks ago, and my pages were marked up. I was the reader.
Right.
So just tell me, why they're so clean, and then use that as a way to talk a little bit about what you actually do when you first get a script.
I think part of the reason they're clean, and I kind of didn't even know, until I saw other actors' pages, that actors write a lot of stuff on their scripts. I think it's because I started acting as a kid and I didn't go to drama school. I think that's kind of what I put it down to, because most of my friends who do, write stuff in their script have gone to drama school or done acting classes of some kind. And I think, you learn to notate things and mention, motivations or objectives and all that sort of stuff. Because I started at like age 8 and I just kind of kept going. And it was kind of I don't even know. I've often wondered, I wonder if there is the various acting techniques that you hear in the various schools. I wonder if I'm doing one or a couple, because I don't know what I'm doing particularly. Right. But other than, that kind of term, it's instinctive.
Yeah.
When I was a really little kid, it was more just that very performative, I'm playing a kid running into the room excited,
Right.
And, but I tell you what actually changed things for me in terms of how I thought about acting was when I saw The Elephant Man at the movies, and it was Anthony Hopkins' performance in that. I'd never heard of him before, and most of the world didn't really hear of him until Silence of the Lambs, I suppose. Yeah. And of course John Hurt's amazing in that film too, but there was something incredible about Anthony Hopkins' performance. I never quite seen somebody do so little and convey so much. And I couldn't see him acting, and of course there are plenty of other performances that would apply to, but that's the first time I remember.
Were you already acting as a kid at that time?
Yeah, I was, yeah. So that film I think was from 1980.
I think it's 80, yeah.
So I'd been acting a couple of years, but I remember seeing that, and I think I saw that probably in 81 in Australia, and that sort of changed things. And anyway, not that I suddenly went, oh, I'll just do that then. It was just a thing that kind of made me go, oh, okay, that's a bit different from what I thought it was. So just getting back to your question, I've never learned what to write on a script, or to break down beats or any of those things. I know people do that, and sometimes when I've rehearsed a play, we'll sit around the table and we'll do that together. And I take notes. A play is different because you've got to write down things like where you're going to walk and stuff, and you're rehearsing the same pages over and over again. So you write on those. But for film and TV, I don't. I guess what I do is I read, generally read the script as a whole, and I kind of come up with. Not in a particularly conscious way, just sort of, it's almost like making a brew, and it's like, so I'll throw in the script, I'll throw in the description of the character that they've supplied. Mm-hmm. I'll look at the way the dialogue is written and the way people behave around this person. And then anything else the writer or director
it goes in the brew.
And then I think the director or if the writer, if they're around, anything additional that they want to tell me, and so And I feel like particularly when it's well written, I give so much credit to writers in terms of whether an actor pulls off a performance or not. I think so much of what we consider great acting is great writing. I don't know, maybe that seems like an obvious thing, but I just know that even just speaking personally, you know, the times I've been given credit for a performance, it nearly always, it's been like my favourite writing. And the times that I've, you know, there've been tumbleweeds after I've been in something and I've been watching it through my fingers because I'm so embarrassed about how bad I am. You know, a lot of that time is like because the writing wasn't very good. Yeah. So, you know, it's hard to make. I think particularly great actors can make bad writing work. I don't think I'm good enough to do that, but I do think good writing makes me better, definitely.
One of the actors I was talking to, Paul Calderone, said something that really has messed with me. And even hearing you talk right now, I'm like, it's messing with me again because it's the pacing. The way the dialogue is on the page and the way that anticipates the pace feels like it's so important according to that actor. And then I was thinking, oh man, he's right. And I hate that too. Like if you don't walk into a pace, you can never, sometimes you can't do the dialogue right ever.
Yeah.
And you know, and then I was thinking about what you worked with David Mamet a couple times, I think.
Yeah.
And you mentioned somewhere he gave you like one bit of directing once, which was just faster.
Yeah.
I mean, like this is like it's so. and then you worked with Eastwood, and like he didn't give you any direction.
It's a funny thing, you know. You can be a masterful director and be like, Clint Eastwood, who virtually says nothing to any of the actors at all. And then other directors, the thing that's so great about them is the direction they're giving you. You know that your performance is. You owe your performance to the director and what they've said, and both can work. I guess they just know what their strengths are and whether they're someone who should pass on their thoughts or not.
Do you find that directors who are actors are better directors?
I wouldn't say always, because there are definitely directors I've worked with who are amazing who aren't actors, but directors who are actors definitely usually direct actors better.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of knowing how to communicate, knowing what to get, not knowing that, making an actor feel comfortable and not putting them on edge. A director who also acts would probably never say something like, what's wrong? You're just not getting it. There's something going on. Something like that.
Yes.
That other directors have said to me before. And you're thinking, okay, well, whatever was bad is going to be way worse now because I'm completely thrown. I mean, you've scared the crap out of me. An actor would never say that to another actor because they would know that was, you want. Actors need to feel. Actors are insecure, They need to mostly.
And that is a person that has that job. He probably still has that job right now. That person that said that.
Yeah. Well, that person I'm speaking about is actually a really good director, like an amazing director, but just not so great at skill at communicating with actors. Right. You wouldn't know that from watching their work, though. Yeah.
It is so crazy how many articles
have come into my feed about the same actor is playing Charles Manson in 2 different movies. David Fincher's Mindhunter and Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. 2 great directors. The same character. It was like people want to write that article.
Right.
And because it's this character,
I've had talks with actors about playing psychopaths. One school is that
you have to find the psychopath in yourself. There's a psychopath in yourself. And you have to find that to play that.
Right.
But I'm just so fascinated that you're playing both of these. Which one came first?
Mindhunter came first.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, and so that's coming out soon, and I'm sure you can't talk a lot about that. But what I do know about that is that it takes us to Manson a little bit later than Once Upon a Time in Hollywood does.
It does, yeah. He's as with the all the bad guys on that show. He's in jail at that point.
Right.
So it's a different. That was really interesting too. Apart from just getting to work with those guys and. Australian director Andrew Dominic actually directed the Mindhunter episode that I did, and he's, people would know him from Chopper or Assassination of Jesse James, incredible director. So it was also cool just being able to do, because of that age gap. There was Manson in the Tarantino movie is pre-jail, and he's a kind of in his kind of court jester, out there just living on the ranch and taking drugs and having sex, and he's in that sort of whole cult life world. And then in jail, he's incredibly bitter, angry man, and he a certain lightness existed in him in the early stuff. When you listen to him speaking, there's not a lot of him, I understand, because he wasn't famous yet, but there's a recording of him, I think from about 67 or 68, his audition tapes for when he was trying to be a rock star. And a lot of his auditions, he's talking and laughing, and you can hear the girls laughing in the background, and you really get a sense of younger Manson in that. And he doesn't feel like the same guy anymore when you see him in jail. He looks pretty pissed off most of the time.
Are you of the school where you have to like the character you're playing?
I get what people mean by that. I think that you're still capable of, unless you're staying in character the whole time,
right?
Where you are them, essentially, which I don't do. I don't even do that between, once cut is said, I'm not even, I'm straight back to myself pretty much. Yes, of course I don't lose the ability to reason as to whether someone did really terrible things or not, You might, in the research of them, come to understand them better, or understand why they might have done something. I think probably between action and cut, if you're really in it, you can, not that you're sitting there thinking, I like this guy, but you have to kind of believe what you're saying. That's essentially the job of an actor, really, is to at least look like you believe what you're saying. And I think the easiest way to do that is to convince yourself that you do believe it while you're saying it. So, but look, the thing with someone like Manson too is it's not like you're playing someone who's saying, most of the time, he's not saying the things that ended up happening. It's not like you're sitting there. It's not like you're having to play a guy who said, "I want to go and kill innocent people in their home." I mean, he denies that he had anything to even do with that. So you're actually just playing someone who's
demented ideas.
Crazy kind of like, it's like the kind of the closest thing to him I can think of is a homeless person, like maybe someone with schizophrenia that you see talking to themselves on the street. A lot of his interviews have that sense where they're just spouting stuff that doesn't even make sense. Other times it does make sense, like a lot of sense, like, just little snippets where you're like, wow, that was kind of an amazing thought about life, where did that come from? And then the next thing he's onto is something just, you don't even know what he's talking about.
Right.
So, I mean, clearly the guy was mentally ill, probably several different things going on. But even I've read and watched a hell of a lot. I still don't really know what made him tick. I think that if you're playing a real person, ultimately, I when I watch someone playing a real person, I love it when I forget the real person. Like Rami Malek doing Freddie Mercury was so great. I couldn't remember the real Freddie Mercury because I was like, I think that was him exactly. I can't remember the difference. If you can pull that off, I think it's, and also another great thing about that performance is, you know, you don't go, yeah, but that's just you to feel like you're doing an SNL sketch impersonation. And, you know, I never felt that. I felt like that. No, I'm also watching a real person. Right. So I think that's the thing you want to convey is enough of the person that people are familiar with that they believe it and forget that it's even you, but without losing the humanity and the being in the moment and looking like you're a real person conversing with another person, as opposed to just, I'm just going to do voice and movements of this person.
Mm-hmm. Knowing that you already did the Manson for the Mindhunter, I'm just so curious if Tarantino wanted you to do something different in this characterization than you did in that, knowing that the two were going to be around in the sphere at the same time. You know, I guess that wasn't even wasn't even thought about. Right?
No. He knew that I'd done it because obviously it would have been weird to to keep that a secret. But it didn't come up much. I think he said at one point, you know, while we were shooting, you know, you've done Fincher's thing already. I was like, yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago. He's like, oh, cool. How'd that go? I was like, that was great. You know, but that was about it. You know, it's a weird thing. It's weird. Right? Yeah. But he didn't ask about any of it other than that, and he certainly didn't say, I want you to do something different or anything. But as I say, I you know, there was enough already that I found that was different about him. Yeah. And I look different in the two as well.
Right. It's one of those interesting things. Like, has the character ever played the same real person in two different things?
Yeah, well, yeah. It's surprisingly common, actually. Common's probably a strong word, but it's happened quite a few times. I don't think it's happened in two productions within a couple of months of release of each other. I definitely don't think it's happened this close together. But I mean, I think there's some guy who's played Saddam Hussein 3 times. There's that British actor who's played Tony Blair. Is it Michael Sheen?
Oh, yeah.
I think he's played Tony Blair twice. There are actually people kind of found a few. But they were often over a period of time rather than so close together.
Right. I am fascinated by the way you described how Tarantino directed you in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. At one moment, you said something like he play acted the way to do it in a cartoonish way,
kind of,
according to you. This would generally be a big no-no.
Right.
You know, like it's almost like a line reading or showing an actor how to act.
Right.
But according to you, it was like because it was so cartoonish or something like that.
It was also not. Yeah, it was also so casual. Like it wasn't a director saying, "Do it like this." It was more just kind of like, you know. So I guess Manson's walking up and he's looking around and he's sort of doing it while he says it. But as he's sort of talking it through and doing it, he just made it clear how he wanted it to be without him saying, "Do it like this." He certainly wasn't saying, "Do it like this," but it was just enough. And also, look, I don't. If it was all the time, I would hate it, but I don't hate line readings. I know a lot of actors do. Sometimes it's the best way, like because of course, you know, there's such a thing. Most directors don't give a line reading. Whatever you do, it's an absolute no. And sometimes they'll be spending 3 minutes trying to describe something. You go, can you just do it? Can you just do exactly how you hear it? And I will, because I don't know what you mean. And they're going, well, I don't want to do a line reading. Like, no, please just do a line reading. Because I don't know what you mean otherwise. I said to Quentin Tarantino after we shot a scene, which is not in the release cut of the film, at least not yet. I said, you write the acting into the. I said, you've written good acting into this dialogue. This dialogue is so great to say. Like I feel like the good acting is written in, and an actor just has to say this, you know, and that is. You feel so lucky to get to do that. And there are other times. And you know, that's a rarity when it's that good. Most of the time it's somewhere between good and great. And then there are other times where it's just not great at all. And you know, again, maybe a trained actor would have a better shot at making stuff work that doesn't read like people talk. But when I have to say something and it doesn't read in the way people speak, whether it's the phrasing or just the thoughts that follow, that follow each other. Yeah, I really struggle with that, and I feel like I'm, completely lost at sea with it. I don't enjoy that at all. And as it, the way these things turn out, the when you're starting out as an actor or you're trying to work your way up, the chances are you're more likely to be working with the dialogue that's not as great. And then at the time you least need the help, you're rewarded with the dialogue that makes you look even better. Right. And I kind of think that's something sort of unfair about that in a way. You want that really great dialogue when you're starting, and then you can look like you're doing really well rather than trying to polish something that's not so great.
You were talking about how you were loving getting scripts for your character Dewey Crowe in Justified toward the end of the run. Like you just couldn't wait to get another script. And you were talking about how the writers were so great, but they were feeding off of what you were doing with the character. And bringing it was like it was like a collaboration. That wasn't really your word. You gave all the credit to them, but but you were also saying that they were seeing what you were doing, and it was allowing them to write it more fully, and then gets to a point where it's just this living thing. And when you see the final season, when you see the final episodes of Justified, you really feel like you are really settled into this guy. Like it's really, I encourage people to check this out, because you're alive in there with this character, and this is something I always wanted to know. 5 seasons, even though you're spread out and it's about 25 or 8 episodes, right?
Yeah.
But it's something that I always thought must be a great thing for an actor to go through over years with a character. Could you just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing. I mean, if you think about it, it does make sense that, when a writer's writing a pilot, for example, they've got a blank slate as to who's going to be saying their words. So they don't have a character as fully fleshed out as it's going to be once that person plays it, because they don't know what that's going to be, and when you're going into it too, unless you're someone who's super brave with making crazy choices, which I'm not, I would have just gone, okay, I think they want this to be this, or, this is a redneck guy, he says some pretty stupid things. But, if I see episodes of maybe season 1 or 2 of Justified, the stuff that Dewey is in there, he's just like 70% of the Dewey that he kind of comes to be by season 3, 4, 5. And it is that thing of them. It's just that the back and forth, really. It's like, they write something for you, and then one of those bits you might do something particularly deadpan that they liked, or particularly, hapless, or, a certain reader, and then they'll write something even more amazing the next time, and then you're like, oh, okay, yes, okay, so he's that guy, right? Okay, and so there is this back and forth thing, and I remember going back and watching early Seinfeld a few years ago, and Kramer is so subdued, because of course he wasn't doing episode 1 sliding through doors and having his hair a foot high. He's almost a normal guy. It's so weird. It's like, it's that thing. He would have kept going, well, I'll do a bit more, and they're going to go, well, if you're going to do that, we're going to do this. Pretty cool.
I was walking down the street recently, and I don't know if you're in New York a lot, but they hand out flyers, but some people are trying to get you to stop and sign up for something, and they say, "Excuse me, sir, you have a moment for the children, for the this or that." And so New Yorkers have gotten used to not even eye contact with them.
Right.
Keep going. I guess I was not, in my complete conscious mind. And one of them said to me, "Sir," and I looked up, and she said, "You look like you care." And I forgot that it's probably one of these people that want to sign. And I almost said it like,
I do care. How did you know that? And, but I collected myself and realized, I said, sorry, I don't have time, and walked on. It wasn't until the next day that I saw that the name of her company is Care.
Right.
So this makes it all just ridiculous. It was just a line.
Right.
But the reason why it was important for me is because I thought for a moment that there was something on my face that showed that I'm an empathetic person. Mm-hmm. And for that whole day until I saw that Care on her thing or on another person's thing, I was literally thinking, what is my face doing?
Right.
And then I was also thinking, like, do actors obsess over this? Okay? And like, do actors obsess over what their face is doing? You know, I just talked to Jesse Eisenberg. He doesn't watch any of his stuff.
Right.
Not once.
Right.
Ever.
Wow.
And he knows it when he's filming. He knows he'll never watch it.
Yeah. Wow.
And he's free in the moment. He doesn't ever think, what's my face going to be doing?
Did he say why? Is it because it just finds it too hard?
It's just because he gets obsessed. He
Right.
looks at himself, he gets obsessed, he starts analyzing things, and he says it's the height of vanity to sit in a movie theater with all these famous people and watch yourself on the screen and everybody's laughing and you take notes of what your face is doing.
Right. Yeah.
Something great about it. I mean, you know. But I want to know what your relationship is with your face, and like, if you're studying what your face does, and if you make adjustments.
Yeah, not so much that, but I do, and I certainly relate to the Jesse Eisenberg thing of watching myself. I find pretty hard because I'm really critical, and it can be very depressing when you think you were doing something, and you watch yourself and you're not. And yeah, I guess your face does come into that. Sometimes I watch something and think, what was my face doing there? You know. And sometimes while I'm acting, I can be self-conscious about my face. You know, it's better when you're not, I think, you know, but that's not something you want to be thinking about too much. And I tend to think, you know, not doing anything with your face other than listening, you know, is a good place to start. But
I mean,
yeah.
do you even think it's good for actors to be conscious of what your type is? And to be consciously trying to battle against the type, or to be leaning into the type?
That's a good question. I think it depends on the reality of whether you're going to get cast as those things. So, for example, like, I don't have a type particularly, other than, unless playing lots of different weirdos is a type. You know, playing lots of different characters that don't have much to do with each other may be a type in itself. But I wouldn't go, you know what, I should start doing some photo shoots where I look like a leading man, like a romantic lead, and let's try and kind of push that angle, because I'm not stupid. I know I'm not going to get, like, there's no universe in where I'm suddenly playing romantic leads in things. That was highly unlikely. It would have to be something completely unusual.
See, you're saying that, and I'm thinking, I'm not with you on that.
Really? Well,
yeah, I mean, I could totally see you having one thing that now, like right around this time period, where they just put you in that thing and you're gone forever. And there's been so many examples of that.
Yeah, but I don't think I'm short. I'm not particularly good look. Like,
short, like Pacino and Cruz and Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman's certainly an exception, but he sort of was also another era. I don't know if we have Dustin Hoffmans anymore.
That's an interesting point.
Not to say I would be Dustin Hoffman if we did. I mean, that guy's one of the greats of all time. But in terms of a type, he's certainly not a traditional good-looking guy. He was a leading man, but I don't know.
I'm saying short has nothing.
Well, okay, short has nothing to do with it. Let's take short out of it. But, I don't know. I guess what I mean is at least the traditional leading man of you know, the more traditional version of that. So I think knowing what you
in a realistic world, where you hit in the bullseye of people's minds.
I think it is good to know that, because if you go, if you're not someone who's had any experience with comedy, and I've sort of had a couple of this times friends have said, Dad, I'm going to try and get more into comedy. I'm going to put comedy on my reel. I'm going to do comedy, and I think I don't know if I've ever seen you do. Like, I don't know that that's a thing for you. Is it like? And it might be, but I think sometimes they just think, well, I just want to do that because that's another door that can open. Well, it's not going to open unless it's something that you're going to shine in, because especially in America, there are so many people who are good at it, so you can't just say, well, I'll do that too, Right. I mean, you can. I guess I'm just saying for your own mental health, it's better to know what you're likely. It's hard enough already without adding further burdens by trying to add strings to a bow that you don't have.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Is there something, though, that you want to do or hoping to do, a role or something that you haven't been given a chance to yet, that you know you can do? Do you know that you're good at, or that it's right for you and no one can see you in that?
I've had a taste of this, and it's just not going to be the answer you expect. But like, if someone said to me right now, hey, you can have a show. We'll do a show. Don't expect that to happen, by the way. But I'm just saying, a genie appears and says, you can have a show. What would that be? I would love to do a sketch show where I get to do, 8 sketches an episode, just completely different characters, different countries, different ages, different look. Like, I would love that. That would be fun to me. Yeah. And then, not to say I just want to move away from dramatic acting into sketch comedy. I just would love to do that for a couple of years. I think that would be a super fun thing to do. And I just know that I would have fun doing something like that, and I would probably want to try and write some of them. And that would be fun. That would be fun to me.
Damon Herriman, thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. The pleasure's been all mine.
Oh, no, mine.
Back to One is a production of Filmmaker Magazine, which is a publication of IFP, the Independent Filmmaker Project. Listen to back episodes of this podcast at filmmakermagazine.com or wherever you get your podcasts.